Here on 365 Sports, Jennifer Smoak, Fantasy Football League guru, and we're going to be positive about today. And you had maybe one of the most nightmarish fantasy football weekends ever, but do you want to just not talk about it?
I mean, honestly, y'all are lucky I'm able to do this show today because I just got released from the Rusk State Hospital just a few hours ago after the trauma I endured on Sunday and Monday night. So, I mean, we can talk about it. It's sad. It's sad when you lose and you put up 176 points and you lose to someone who puts up 185. So there's just so many things last week that went wrong against me, but there were so many things that also went good for me. So it was just one of those like heart-wrenching losses where I should have won and I didn't due to numerous reasons. And it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible.
So you had a nice lead going into Sunday night and the Buccaneers were playing and you had a very comfortable lead and Brady and Mike Evans went off, right? And that like just basically just sucked any kind of a 50, 60, 70 point lead that you had.
I think I was actually winning by 100. I want to say 140 to about 50 something points at that time. And like I said on the show last week, I knew that Persia's team was due for a big week. She had been scoring average points the first 3 weeks. And I just knew that, with Mike Evans coming back from his suspension and Brady had only had one touchdown in the first 3 weeks of the game going up against the Chiefs on a Sunday night playing field, I just knew Brady and Mike were going to go off. Of course, Brady had the best game of the season so far with over 300 passing yards and 3 touchdowns, one of those being towards the end of the game. And that's what was haunting me is there was 5 minutes left in the game. And I feel like any other team, when they were losing the way that the Bucs were, would have taken their, starting quarterback out to just, not risk any injury or anything. But no. We don't do that with Brady. Brady fights until the end, which is admirable until you're playing him in fantasy. But he, of course, in the last 5 minutes, him and Mike Evans got like a combined 17 points. And the game wouldn't end. It kept going and going. Then he throws a touchdown pass to Fournette. And of course, Brady's 2 touchdown passes were to Mike Evans, who I was also playing. And one of those, I believe, was on the 1 yard line. So, Mike Evans ends up with over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. And it just completely screwed me from there. I mean, it was just a complete nightmare from there. And they didn't even win the game. So, yeah, it was a lot of yelling. I lost my voice. I'm just now starting to get it back. But, yeah, a terrible, terrible night for me.
Jennifer, you then had Deebo Samuel, who had been due for a breakout game. And he gives you a big lift on Monday night, and it actually brings you back into the lead. But what happened with the 49ers defense and the Rams and Matthew Stafford?
What didn't happen with the 49ers defense Monday night? I mean, who would have thought that I would have had to have been so scared about a defense, which not to mention I had week 1 and I dropped them. So that's another reason they came back to haunt me. But good God. I mean, the 49ers defense killed me that game. I went into that game and I was losing by 20-something points. And then when you start the game, the defense, with the way our points are set up, your defense starts out with 10 points. So when the game started that night, I was down by about 30 points, but you always expect the defense to lose some points here and there. And I think everyone expected the Rams to do much better than they did. But the 49ers D came to play and basically controlled that whole game. And once again, Matthew Stafford and completely screwed me over like he did week 1 with Allen Robinson. But yeah, the 49ers defense just kept getting sack after sack. A sack is 1 point every time. They ended up with 7 sacks. I mean, I do not know what was going on with the Rams that game. They only scored 9 points, which also gives your defense more points. They had a pick 6 at the end of the game. I want to say that it was another 5 minutes left at the end of the 4th. And all I needed was the game to end. I was up by 2 points because Deebo had gone off and he got me 30 points. He did exactly what I needed him to do. But unfortunately, the 49ers defense also went off and they ended up with 22 points. And with that pick 6 at the end of the game that Stafford threw, that caused me to lose. And then and then Stafford gets the ball back again. And I believe they got 2 more sacks and a fumble recovery. I mean, it was just a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. To see your players go off the way that mine did last week, to put up that many points and to still get a loss, it's why people stop playing fantasy football, really.
Well, and I've told you this, and Craig has told you this, and we don't do this because you're a sports fan and you love sports, and this takes that away from you in a way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I was going crazy because Debo, like I said, usually, like if I know that my player needs to score big, I have to go in there cautiously knowing that, anything can happen. And the way that the game started Monday night, I wasn't confident with what Debo was doing. And then all of a sudden he had that huge 57-yard touchdown catch that had me losing my mind. But I was trying to keep my composure because I saw how well the 49ers defense was doing. Oreo's trying to make an appearance. And I saw how well the 49ers defense was doing. And so I couldn't get comfortable. And that's the thing. It's like there's nothing worse than when you can't even feel comfortable in what your team's doing when they're going off because you're always up against something else even bigger. And so, Debo finally had his big game. So it sucks to lose when your players are going off. And he had 6 receptions for 115 yards and a touchdown. And, he should have had another touchdown, but then he fell at the 1-yard line. That's another thing that was killing me last week is Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown, 2 of my players, both of them had touchdowns, which would have won me last week. But their offense, somebody on the offense had a penalty, and so both of those touchdowns got called back. So it was just one thing after the other last week, and it put me into a spiral.
All right, so Garrett, do you have the picture? I'm not sure if you know we have this, Jennifer. This is a picture that we got from a source. And
my God.
And it's Oreo. She's outside of what is the entrance into your kitchen from your TV room. And the look on her face is of nothing but shock and awe. She's traumatized. When did this happen?
I mean, at what point? There were so many things that happened. It had to have been either, well, first of all, I don't know when it happened because I didn't know this picture was taken. But I would have to guess that it happened Sunday night whenever like Brady and Evans were just going off and off and off, or it happened Monday night when Stafford was a complete failure to the entire Rams nation. But, what else is sad is that Brady, they only attempted to rush the ball 6 times against the Chiefs, which marks just the 5th time in NFL history that a team has attempted to rush 6 or fewer times. Of course that happened. Of course they wanted to throw the ball every time because I'm playing Brady. It's just the things that happen, they're unspeakable, and my jaw is just dropped. Like watching everything that went on, it's like it could not, like the fantasy gods could not have been more for me and against me in the same week. It was craziness because I had Hawkinson and I've been complaining about his playing ability, and I've been saying that he hasn't been doing great, and I knew it was because when you have Amon-Ra St. Brown in there, he's just getting all of Hawkinson's receptions. But Hawkinson was my star player this week. He had 8 receptions for 179 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also should have had a 3rd touchdown, but Goff just barely overthrew him. I mean, he went off, and I'm just hoping that even when St. Brown comes back, that they remember what he did last week and still continue to get him the ball more, because when he gets the ball, he does amazing. And that's another player that hasn't been doing much for me. And I finally get him to have a big week and it still ends up in a loss. And it's just sickening.
I'm taking custody of Oreo until after football season's over with.
That's it. Well, we're going to
make sure she's okay.
She's going to come down here this weekend and then she's not going back.
Yeah, Daniel had to take her on a walk because I'm pretty sure she was scarred. But to be honest with you, I wasn't thinking about Oreo in those moments. I was thinking about I can't even say it, what I was going through. I love the dog, but, when fantasy gets that rough. No, I love Oreo.
You said
but when
the
fantasy
dog.
Gets that, I know, that's messed up. I didn't mean it like that. Y'all know Oreo's my daughter. But I just, honestly, in those moments, I just see red, and I can't think of anything else but what's happening on the TV. It's hard. It's hard when you know your team is good and you're still losing. It's the hardest thing to fathom.
Okay, well, at least your team's not bad like last year when you had no chance week in and week out, and you just had to do it because the schedule doesn't stop. I've said this. By the way, I had a question for you about two receivers. This is from Cameron. Should I start Valdez-Scantling or Julio Jones?
I feel like, okay, let's see. Who's Valdez-Scantling up against this week? I need to know
Packers
that.
are playing, let's see here. They're playing at home against the Giants. Julio's
Okay.
with Tampa Bay. They're at home against Atlanta.
Oh, Atlanta's terrible this year. I would go with Julio Jones because I feel like they haven't been utilizing Julio that much because Brady only looks at Evans. But I'll say I would go with Julio this week because I'm not playing any of them, so you should have a good week because I'm sure Julio will finally have a big game. So I'll say Julio.
Packers are also playing very early Sunday morning, 8:30 Central, against the Giants. That game is in London, so that's a long road trip for both of those teams. So you're scoring a lot of points. I've said this to you. Just keep knocking on the door. Don't you think it all evens out? Are any of the other girls in your league sending you text messages to make sure you're okay? Are they enjoying this?
I'm frustrated because I'll ask them, I'll say, does anybody else get as upset as I do about losing? And I don't think that they do. And I say, maybe it's because I have to do this show every Thursday. And it's like after I finally get over it, by Wednesday, I think I start to finally, get over it, kind of, sort of, not. But then I have to relive it on Thursday and tell the world that I've lost once again. But, yeah, I don't think that the rest of the girls take it as seriously as I do. So, really, I'm just trying to ask them how they don't so that I can stop taking it so seriously. But it's just a constant – I'm just competitive, and I don't want to lose, and I don't want to come on here and say that I've lost again. But like you said, I can say that I'm way more confident in my team this year than I am last year. So it's like even though I'm losing, at least I don't have to be upset and discouraged with the way my players are performing. I feel like they're still consistently doing a good job, and so that keeps me hopeful. And it's only been 4 weeks; we still have 10 weeks to go. And I know other girls that have started off with losses in the beginning of the season, and then they end up in the championship. So I just have to hope that the way I'm still putting up points, that eventually I'll start getting some wins and can still, at least make it into the playoffs.
By the way, I lied to you about Valdez-Scantling. He plays for Kansas City. They're playing the Raiders. So he's on Patrick Mahomes' team.
Okay, well, I would still say with the way Brady was playing last week, maybe put Julio in this week so that because he's due for a game. He's due for a good game.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say another thing that's concerning me this week is, Waddle's been one of my top performers who I love, but last week he didn't get me very many points, but that's because, as people know, that Tua gets knocked out. And once he went out of the game, it just completely ruined my receptions with Waddle because bobbling Bridgewater comes in and clearly only looks at Tyreek the whole time. But, I do think that it's hard to come in not only after you lose your star quarterback to such a rough injury, but also to unexpectedly come into a game. So hopefully he'll work some things out, during practice this last week and things will get better. But I do need to make a decision whether I want to keep Waddle in this week until I kind of see, what Bridgewater's doing or until Tua comes back, or go with Godwin, who is on the Bucs with Brady, and see if I should go that route this week. But I feel like with Paul not here today, maybe Garrett can help me because I need to decide between those two.
Who are you trying to decide between?
Between Godwin and Waddle, because with Bridgewater, if he's playing, I'm assuming Tua is still out. So I'm trying to decide if I keep Waddle in this week and just hope that Bridgewater and him have a better connection, or go with Godwin.
Ugh, I think I would have to ride with Godwin in that situation. I just don't trust Bridgewater.
I know, me neither. And okay, all right, Godwin. And then here's the position that's messing me up because I had relied on James Conner to be my running back 2 position. And I've been extremely disappointed with him, not only because I feel like he hasn't been as productive ever since he went out with his injury in week 2, but I'm also regretting it because I skipped out on Saquon Barkley in the draft to get James Conner. I also skipped out on Aaron Jones that same pick. So this is one of those picks that's been haunting me. And they had Eno Benjamin and Darrell Williams in a lot during the game last week. So I'm scared that because of Connor's inconsistency and injuries that it's hurting his amount of play. And I just can't trust him. But I have to decide on my running back 2 position. I did drop Rashad Penny last week. And, of course, he had a huge game. And I did that because I picked up Khalil Herbert, who didn't have that great of a game. But I did get Penny back on the waivers. So I'm trying to decide for the running back 2 position between Penny, Herbert, James Conner. And I do also have Antonio Gibson, but I'm feeling like he might start splitting some carries with Brian Robinson in the next couple of weeks, who's expected to return after a gunshot wound, put him out in August. But I don't know. I don't know who I should go with in that second position.
Yeah, I don't know. Brian Robinson is a great story in itself, him coming back after being shot to be able to get back to being active. By the way, from Justin on the chat room, just to give you a heads up, Godwin dealing with a hamstring injury. I don't know how you sit Waddle even with Tua out. He's a really good receiver. But that's,
I know. I feel like Bridgewater was shaky last week when he came in. I mean, you could tell he just wasn't consistent. He was nervous. He was all over the place. But that's why I'm kind of hoping, with him having this week of practice, maybe he can come back and be better. I know he was good when he was with the Saints, and I feel like there could be a connection there. So I know, because if I sit Waddle, I can see him going off like he did the first week when I sat him. But Godwin's always got something going on, I feel like, lately.
Yeah,
So
I just think Waddle's too good. Again, you can text Paul. He's not here today. He'll be back next week when you do the show next Thursday, hopefully with a win.
yeah,
All right.
hopefully.
All right, you want to put that picture up of Oreo one more time? This is a dog, according to Jennifer. It's Oreo, who is like wondering what in the hell is all this noise, as she's just trying to enjoy a Monday evening.
Poor Oreo.
Yeah.
Mommy's going to be better. Mom's going to be better.
Okay. All right. See you soon. Thank you very
All right,
much. Good
thank
luck.
you, guys. Love y'all. Bye.
Jennifer Smoak from Fantasy Football. Appreciate the time. Garrett, thanks for the input as well. She'll be texting Paul now for a lot to get some more information.